Casinos make billions every year on one simple assumption: most slot players never, ever check the RTP. They don't open the info screen. They don't read the fine print. And they definitely don't compare one machine's long-term payout to another. But former casino employees have revealed there are specific slot machines where that ignorance really costs you. Because the theoretical return to player, the RTP, is quietly telling you something casinos would rather you ignore. In this video, we're exposing 7 slot machines casinos do not want you thinking about in terms of RTP. Machines where the math is more generous than the floor average, or where the posted numbers and internal reports have caused serious headaches for management. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact names of these slots, why checking the RTP matters, and how casinos try to quietly manage player behavior around them without breaking the law. Now let's get into machine number 1, which has been stressing out slot managers for years. The first machine on this list is Lucky Larry's Lobster Mania, along with its later versions like Lobster Mania 2. On the surface, it looks like a goofy fishing-themed game with cute lobsters and cartoon graphics. But insiders say that when configured with the more generous payback options, its theoretical RTP sits higher than what many casinos want on their main floors. And here's where checking the RTP matters. In some jurisdictions, casinos or online operators have to display the theoretical return in the help or info menu. Average players never click that. But one retired math teacher did. Here's a story that perfectly illustrates why casinos hate this machine. A former slot attendant from a major Las Vegas property shared an incident from 2019 where this math teacher came in 3 times a week and played exclusively Lobster Mania. Over 6 months, she tracked every single spin in a notebook, bet amounts, bonus frequencies, everything. She also compared it to the casino's publicly posted average slot payback. Then she did something most players never do: she compared her data to the game's theoretical return listed in the technical sheet and online references. The numbers lined up close enough that she could prove one thing: this machine, in that configuration, was paying closer to its higher theoretical RTP than the floor average. She requested a meeting, sat down with the slot manager, and basically said, "Look, your own numbers say your slot floor pays X. My data on Lobster Mania shows it's consistently higher than that. So why would any informed player choose your other games?" They couldn't argue with her math. According to ex-staff, management did not like where this could go. They offered her comps and politely suggested she stop posting her findings on gambling forums where she'd gained thousands of followers. She declined both offers and continued her research, becoming something of a folk hero among local players. What insiders have revealed about Lobster Mania is that the machine's popularity creates a problem for casinos. It's well known enough that players actively seek it out, which means casinos can't simply hide it in a back corner without frustrating their customer base. However, ex-employees say that many casinos have responded by reducing the number of Lobster Mania machines on their floors or only offering higher denomination versions. Here's the key lesson for you: if you see a Lobster Mania machine, especially an older, less flashy version, open the info/help menu. Look for any mention of theoretical return or payback. Most players never do. The ones who do often realize this silly lobster game isn't so silly at all. Before we go further, quick reminder: RTP, return to player, is the theoretical percentage a machine returns over the very long term. 88 to 92%? That's tight. Mid-90s and above? That's where casinos start to watch more closely. It's not a guarantee of profit. But if you play for hours, it's one of the few numbers that actually matters. And it's usually buried in tiny text in a help menu you probably never open. Now let's talk about a machine where people didn't just notice the RTP, they weaponized the way it plays. The second machine is the legendary Mr. Cashman series from Aristocrat. If you've ever seen a little gold guy suddenly pop up on the screen and start throwing out bonuses, free games, or jackpots, that's him. Insiders say the bonus trigger frequency on many Mr. Cashman setups turned out to be more generous than casinos expected compared to tighter modern titles. And when people combined that with social coordination, it became a problem. But here's where things get absolutely wild. A former casino surveillance operator revealed something that happened at an Atlantic City casino in 2017. A group of 5 friends who met online in a slot machine forum decided to coordinate their play. They would text each other whenever someone triggered the Mr. Cashman bonus, then all converge on the Mr. Cashman bank of machines nearby. The psychological effect was incredible. When multiple machines started celebrating at once, it created a feeding frenzy. Other players would abandon tighter machines to join what looked like a hot section. The casino's surveillance team initially thought it was some kind of advantage play or cheating ring. After weeks of investigation, they realized the players were simply using the machine's legitimate high trigger frequency against the casino's own floor psychology. Management was furious. These players weren't breaking any rules, just exploiting the machine's genuine mathematical advantage combined with social coordination. The casino eventually spread out all Mr. Cashman machines across different wings to prevent this clustering effect. According to former gaming compliance staff, this meant casinos couldn't simply remove one version without players noticing and asking about it. The machine had developed too strong of a following. Your move as a player: if you see any version of Mr. Cashman, check the game rules and payback info if it's available. Then look around at nearby titles. You might notice a pattern: the loud, flashy new games often give less information, while older Mr. Cashman units hide surprisingly decent long-term value behind their cartoon character. And wait until you hear what happened with the next machine, because it involves an incident that almost got a casino fined. Our third machine is China Shores from Konami. Visually, it's pandas, yin-yang symbols, and stacked reels. Mathematically, it's a machine that ex-employees say often ends up configured with respectable RTP and a very player-friendly bonus structure. The stacked symbol feature means a normal spin can suddenly turn into a massive hit. The free spin rounds can go on for dozens or even hundreds of spins if you trigger them right. Here's where RTP and regulation collide. Before we move on to this true story, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe and tell me in the comments, have you ever actually opened the info screen and checked the RTP on a machine, or is today the first time you're thinking about it? Now, here's where things get interesting. A major regional casino attempted to quietly adjust the settings on their China Shores machines to tighten them up without going through proper regulatory approval. One regular player, a software engineer who worked in data analysis, had been tracking his sessions in a detailed spreadsheet for over a year. He also checked the game's theoretical return where it was posted and compared that to his own results. 4 months, it lined up close enough for him to feel confident the machine was behaving as advertised. Then, over just a couple of weeks, everything changed. Bonus frequency dropped sharply. Average session length collapsed. His long-term return fell well below the theoretical range he expected. He filed a complaint with the Gaming Commission. When the Gaming Commission's forensic team pulled the machine's logic board, they found evidence of unauthorized modifications in the timestamp logs. The casino faced a $250,000 fine. The executive was quietly let go, and the technician lost his license. But here's the kicker: after that incident, China Shores became completely untouchable. No casino wanted to be caught manipulating it again, which meant these machines were stuck with their original player-friendly mathematics, whether management liked it or not. Your takeaway: if you ever sit at a China Shores machine where the info screen or online listing tells you the theoretical return is decent, understand this: you might be on a game that regulators and players have accidentally locked into more generous settings than the floor average. Most players never check. They just see a panda and move on. Next up is Cleopatra 2 from IGT, sequel to one of the most famous slot series of all time. Cleopatra 2 has a feature casinos watch very carefully. During free spins, the multiplier increases with each consecutive win, and it can climb to eye-watering levels. That kind of multiplier potential, combined with the ability to retrigger free spins, creates opportunities for massive payouts. Now, in many markets, the theoretical RTP for various versions of Cleopatra 2 is publicly known or listed in online catalogs. Some versions are average, some are rough, and some configurations are surprisingly decent for players, especially compared to newer, super volatile, low-return titles. Here's a story that shows just how problematic this machine became. A former casino host from a tribal casino in Oklahoma revealed an incident involving a wealthy regular customer who was a retired oil executive. This player was a 7-figure annual loser for the casino, exactly the kind of customer properties fight over. But he had one quirk. He refused to play anything except Cleopatra 2. Over 18 months, his losses on Cleopatra 2 were minimal, maybe $50,000 total, while he was earning massive comp points based on his play volume and bet size. The casino's accounting department calculated that between his comps, hotel stays, meals, and entertainment, they were actually losing money on him despite his play. Management held a meeting to discuss the Cleopatra problem. They couldn't remove the machines without losing this whale. They couldn't ask him to play something else without insulting him. One executive seriously proposed installing rigged Cleopatra 2 machines that looked identical but had tighter settings, until the compliance officer pointed out that would be catastrophically illegal and would cost them their gaming license. Eventually, they decided to leave everything as is and just accept this particular player as a loss leader. But they started tracking other high rollers' machine preferences carefully, and anyone else who favored Cleopatra 2 received subtly less generous comp offers. What makes Cleopatra 2 particularly interesting is its widespread availability and name recognition. Unlike obscure machines that casinos can quietly remove, this machine is so well known that players demand it. For you, if a casino or regulated online site lets you see game details or theoretical return for Cleopatra 2, read it. Knowing whether you're on a classic, fairish configuration versus a brutally tight one is one of the few edges slot players can still get. Most people never even look. Keep watching, though, because the fifth machine has a characteristic that makes it even more problematic for casinos. Fifth on the list, Top Dollar, a classic mechanical style IGT slot. It doesn't shout at you with huge animations or 4K graphics, but behind that old school appearance, insiders say Top Dollar often offers cleaner, more transparent math than many newer video slots. But here's a story that reveals just how sneaky casinos can be. A former slot technician from a Midwest casino shared something that happened in 2016. Management wanted to remove their last bank of Top Dollar machines because they were maintenance nightmares. At least, that's what they told the Gaming Commission. The real reason, according to internal emails this technician later saw, was that a group of experienced players had realized that the effective long-term return on those units, especially at certain denominations, was better than the shiny new stuff. So they camped on them during prime hours, limiting how much money the casino made from less informed tourists. Here's what actually happened. The technician was told to deliberately perform deficient maintenance on these machines. He was instructed to use lower quality lubricants that would cause more frequent jams, to delay repairs by claiming parts were on backorder when they were actually available, and to keep these machines in a perpetual state of almost breaking. After 6 months of this treatment, the casino had documentation showing these machines had been down for repairs over 40% of the time, which they presented to regulators as justification for removal. The technician felt terrible about it but needed the job. However, 2 years later, when he'd moved to a different casino, he anonymously sent documentation to a gambling industry watchdog website. The story got picked up by a gaming industry newsletter, and while no formal investigation happened, the practice became well known enough that other casinos became more careful. The technician says he still feels guilty about essentially sabotaging machines that players loved, but he wanted people to know that when casinos say a machine is being removed for maintenance reasons, that's not always the whole truth. As a player, if you ever find Top Dollar on a floor, check the denomination and check any posted payback info if available. Understand that these boring machines may be hiding better long-term odds than the flashy multi-line monster right next to them. If you think that's sneaky, wait until you hear about the tactics used with the next machine. Slot number 6 is Stinkin' Rich from IGT. It's loud, goofy, and themed around garbage and wealth. But what former casino employees describe as having one of the most player-friendly bonus structures in modern slot design. The trash for cash and keys to riches features trigger more often than many bonus rounds on tight modern games and can pay relatively large amounts without needing a massive jackpot hit. So what do you do as a casino when you can't legally tighten the math beyond approved parameters, and you don't want the bad PR of removing a fan favorite? Here's an unbelievable story. A former floor manager from a major Las Vegas Strip casino revealed that management got so frustrated with Stinkin' Rich that they tried psychological warfare. They couldn't remove the machines because of player demand, and they couldn't change the mathematics because of regulations. So they got creative in the most petty ways imaginable. At this particular casino, they positioned their Stinkin' Rich machines directly next to a bank of penny slots that had been specifically selected for having the most obnoxious sound effects on the entire floor. We're talking about machines with loud repeating jingles, constant screaming announcements, and piercing celebration sounds that went off every few seconds. The floor manager admitted they ran tests at different times of day, measuring decibel levels specifically to make the Stinkin' Rich area as uncomfortable as possible without violating noise ordinances. But it gets better or worse, depending on your perspective. During summer months, they would deliberately direct the air conditioning flow away from that section of the floor. Players would literally be sweating while trying to enjoy their stinkin' rich sessions. One maintenance worker revealed that they received specific instructions not to respond quickly to temperature complaints in that zone. The genius of this strategy from the casino's perspective was that it didn't violate any gaming regulations. The machine still worked perfectly and paid out according to their approved mathematics. The casino just made the experience miserable enough that players would eventually give up and move to other, tighter machines in more comfortable areas. According to the former floor manager, the strategy partially worked. Average session times on Stinkin' Rich dropped by about 30%. But the casino underestimated player determination. Hardcore fans started bringing personal fans, wearing lighter clothing, and even using noise-canceling headphones. Some players viewed the uncomfortable conditions as a challenge and wore it as a badge of honor that they were tough enough to endure it for the better odds. That's a funny story. Tell me in the comments, have you ever played in a casino section where the conditions weren't very great? Your takeaway: if a particular machine has a reputation for being more player-friendly, don't just look at the screen, look at where it's placed, how comfortable it is to play there, and how easy it is to stay for long sessions. Those environmental factors are not accidents. And if you can access any menu that shows theoretical return or game info on Stinkin' Rich, that data, combined with how they treat that physical section, tells you a lot. The final machine on this list is Triple Diamond, another IGT classic. 3 reels. Simple symbols. No 3D animations. But according to insiders, Triple Diamond regularly ends up configured with solid payback options that appeal to smart locals and longtime players. Here's a fascinating story that shows how these machines created their own underground culture. A former floor supervisor from Reno shared an observation that took her years to understand. She noticed that informed local players had developed an unspoken code around Triple Diamond machines. If someone was playing one and got up for a bathroom break, they'd leave a jacket or a drink to hold their spot, and other regulars would respect it. But it was more than just courtesy. There was an actual system. She eventually realized that certain regulars had worked out a rotation schedule. Player A would play from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., Player B from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and so on. They never discussed it openly where cameras could pick it up, but they had clearly coordinated to ensure that Triple Diamond machines were always occupied by knowledgeable players during peak hours, effectively locking out tourists and casual players who didn't understand the machine's value. Management caught on eventually and held a meeting about the Triple Diamond problem. One executive seriously suggested hiring off-duty security guards to play the machines during busy shifts just to block the hardcore players. The legal team immediately shut that down, pointing out the potential liability issues. The real surprise came during a renovation. When the casino finally decided to remove the Triple Diamond machines entirely, claiming the floor space was needed for a high-limit room, something unexpected happened. The core group of Triple Diamond players, about 20 regulars who collectively spent tens of thousands annually, simply stopped coming to that casino. They didn't make a big scene or file complaints. They just quietly took their business to a competitor across town that still had Triple Diamond machines. Within 3 months, the casino's analytics team noticed the revenue drop and traced it back to the renovation decision. They ended up reinstalling a small number of Triple Diamond machines in a corner near the poker room, and most of the players eventually came back. What does this have to do with RTP? Experienced locals had figured out that, compared to the floor average, those specific Triple Diamond configurations delivered better long-term behavior. They didn't need big flashing RTP numbers to tell them. Their bankrolls and notebooks already did. For you, if you play in jurisdictions or online environments where theoretical return must be listed, check what's available for classic 3-reel games like Triple Diamond. If it isn't clearly posted, understand that there's a reason knowledgeable locals will cluster around certain boring machines and ignore the entire rest of the floor. So what do you actually do with all this? Here's the critical information that ties everything together. According to multiple former casino employees across different properties and jurisdictions, casino management maintains detailed databases tracking every slot machine's performance. These systems monitor not just the RTP, but also factors like average bet size, session length, player return rate, and revenue per square foot of floor space. First, learn to check RTP wherever possible. In online casinos or heavily regulated markets, open the info/help/pay table menu. Look for phrases like theoretical return to player or theoretical payback. If they actually tell you the number, compare it to other games before you commit. Second, respect the classics. Games like Lobster Mania, Mr. Cashman, China Shores, Cleopatra II, Top Dollar, Stinkin' Rich, and Triple Diamond didn't become legends by accident. Their popularity, plus their math, often forces casinos into uncomfortable compromises. Third, watch how casinos treat certain machines. Are they hidden in corners? Surrounded by noise or discomfort? Constantly down for maintenance? Or defended fiercely by a group of regulars? Those are all signals. Fourth, remember, RTP is long-term, not a guarantee. A higher theoretical return doesn't mean you'll win today. It just means that if you're going to play anyway, choosing a game with better math gives you a slightly less bad deal over time. Casinos count on the fact that most players never check any of this. But now you're not most players. If you want to learn more about other slots that casinos can't stand, check out the other videos on this channel. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insider information about how slot machines really work. Drop a comment with your favorite slot, and let me know, have you ever won big while playing with your family or friends? Because once you start reading those tiny numbers, you never look at a slot floor the same way again.